everyone. William here. I just had another great conversation with another guest. Would you like to come in and listen in on the conversation we had? By the way, feel free to share it with anyone you feel may find it of interest. Come on, let's go listen in now.
Sarah Warry-Poljanski?
Poljanski.
Yes. Thanks for coming into my studio,
Thanks for
Sarah. I appreciate it. We met at the Shake It Up event. We've spent some time and had some conversations prior to this in our working relationship, and now we meet at Shake It Up, and you tell me that you're running for trustee for Ward 7, which is on top of the mountain.
Yes, Central Mountain.
Right. And what prompted you to run, Sarah?
Well, I became really involved with the school closures, with researching and looking into education, and having 2 children in the education system myself. As I dug deeper and got more involved, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna run for this because I find it interesting and I liked it, and because of my background, I'm like, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like the next step, I guess, of growth for me.
So you wanted to get involved in the community. I know you're already involved in your working career with youth.
Yes, I worked with children and youth. My background is in addictions, and I've worked in group homes, mostly with male young offenders. But I also have worked in elementary schools with children, different agencies doing like sports and whatnot, and even I volunteered for a while when I first got out of college through the city, watching children in the city buildings when they'd come in for appointments. So most of my career has been children and youth. So it's just kind of expanding.
So it kind of fits a little bit going with the trustee.
Yes.
So what are you hoping to bring to the table with being a trustee?
With that, I want to bring obviously like some of my own like professional like knowledge I could bring in. You know what I mean? Like just stuff I've learned not only through school but experience being around firsthand with children and youth, and kind of being on their level, knowing what's going through their heads, kind of being able so we can maybe build programming and stuff, be more effective at understanding what might be going on with them. You know what I mean? Having my own children in the schools, you know what I mean? I see what they bring home for work. I know what's going on within the schools and with the closures, you know what I mean? With the downsizing and what we need. So it's kind of, I want to bring me into there and the stuff I know.
So would some of those changes affect maybe like curriculum and how it's presented?
Well, I wouldn't have that much of a say, but if I can, because that's the thing, is the trustees can talk to the board, put in, like from my understanding, the recommendations and kind of pressure to bring to higher up. So there are some stuff like, I've been really big on the math curriculum because it seems our children, they're learning less and less. And with the current sitting government, the Ministry of Education has changed the math curriculum. They have reinvented math, and kids are struggling. Parents are struggling to try to teach their kids because they don't understand it. Teachers are struggling because they don't get it. So we're sending teachers back to school to teach them this new math, and the kids can't understand. And that is one of the things that I will probably, if elected, voice my concern as a trustee, because I have, as a parent, as a member of the community, as a taxpayer, that we need to do something with the math especially as well. So,
what would be the number one priority on your list of what you would like to accomplish as a trustee?
My main thing would probably come from my professional background is the general emotional and mental health of the children. There's too much bullying. We find, you know, kids don't want to go to school anymore. They don't feel comfortable. You know what I mean? It's try to see what we can do to make a better environment, to eradicate all those things. That way there's no anxiety for children. There's no worry. Like, give them the opportunity to go into a place that's welcoming, that they feel safe, that's friendly, and they can grow to their fullest potential. So that would probably be my main thing, is helping make the schools more welcoming for the kids.
Okay.
To provide them a better You know what I mean? Overall, because we think of school, we only think of the intellectual side, right? What are they learning? What are they learning? But we don't recognize that as they're learning, they emotionally are learning as well. So if they're going into school and they're depressed or they're sad or they're anxious, they carry this throughout life with them. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to want to bring in like mental health people into the schools, but it's just the overall setting. You know what I mean? Maybe we can get teachers to become more empathetic, get them to understand there are kids who might be struggling with stuff. We know, like, we see there's poverty, we see there's the divorce rate's high, so kids will bring this stuff to school with them. So if they're not paying attention, for instance, say because something has happened at home, they may be seen as, well, they can't do the work, or they're acting up, they're not listening. My thing would be to get, so we can see that they're little people, they have lives, and they may be having conflicts, and we kind of have to start paying attention to that aspect as well. That way it's like a wholesome approach. We can make sure all of them is growing, not just intellectually, but emotionally as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, they say out of the mouths of babes, so sometimes I don't think we ask children enough of what their issues are and let them actually have their own voice. We tend to tell them what's good for them rather than have them tell us. And as life changes, I mean, when I was in school, we had a lot of extracurricular activities after school. All those things have been removed. Economically, it's been required. And also, coming from an analog age into a digital age, all those kind of things have kind of gone by the wayside. So now we're more into the social media, which kind of replaces a little bit of the social activity of the sports or the arts that are missing from the schools. And the arts are what brings the creativity out in children. And when you arrest the development of their creativity, quite possibly that does create some sort of resistance, which may cause them to be, anger's too harsh of a word to use, but a little bit of their frustration comes out and then they take it out on one another. Maybe it's part of the bullying aspect that why possibly that it's there. I'm not a psychologist, I don't know. There are people far more intelligent than me that could answer that, but as we're sitting here, I was just thinking that's quite possible that it contributes.
Yeah, like that's the big thing too. I think we should be worrying about bringing, like you said, the extracurricular activities back in a lot of the different arts and music and all of those, because right now technology is expanding. And that's the thing, is with the schools, we are moving forward with the 21st century learning they're bringing in to help the children learn. That way in 10 years from now, because in 10 years from now, the world could be totally different from what we know today. If you were to wake up out of a coma in, say, 2025, you may not know where you are, because it is. So in that aspect, it's good because we're getting them ready. That way they're ready for the future. We're getting them ready in the present for the future. But at the same time, we need to realize is that they're different. They have different thinking, you know what I mean? You can give a kid, they could read something, boom, pick it up. Another one can just have to listen to like verbal commands and boom, they can do it. But when they get in and you have them doing hands-on, to me that's the best. So I want to see that, and I want to see more arts and more of those programs, because just as well as if we can have 1 million scientists, but if they all have the same learning, they all have the same opinion, it's just as good as having only 5, because they can only come up with the same answers because they've all been trained the same. Do you know what I mean? So we need to let kids succeed in the area that they're going to succeed in. We can't force success. We have to kind of let it grow. So there's those kids that they may not be good at math, but in art, they can be brilliant. You know what I mean? In music, they could be, and these are things that are part of our everyday life. So you see artists and musicians, they're making, you know, more than some doctors. So why not give them that opportunity if that's what they have in them? So that's another thing that I would like to see changed, is letting kids kind of be more free to choose which direction they'd like to take, like before college, to kind of be able to pick courses to kind of start steering where they think they'd like to go in life.
Well, I think children do create the future, and for someone like myself, and even yourself, I know that you look younger than you are, and can I ask how old you are?
I'm 30. I'll be 31 later on in the year.
Oh, very good. Yeah, you look far younger than that. So,
yes.
But in your going to be affected by whatever change these young people affect.
Yes.
And you'll be affected by that change they affect. And so it is important that we nurture these children and allow them to create a future that we don't mind living in as well, because they're the ones who are going to create it.
Definitely. And that's the thing, is we need to make sure that they're prepared, because, you know what I mean? There's no point of having all this time there in school if they can't get anything out of it. Like personally, professionally, I don't know, sometimes it feels almost like the system is declining. You know what I mean? We see that there's money for other things within life, but not education. To me, education is everything. Like even as a grown adult, my biggest thing, I tell people I'm a geek. I'm reading. I want to know. And I'm like, how marvelous would it be if we could have a generation of children that's what they want to do. Constant learning. We hear how studies are saying at 24, the brain starts to decline. If you think about it, what happens at 24 for most people? They're done college, they've gotten to work, maybe they've worked a couple years, so they got comfortable, like we've talked about, and they no longer wish to learn. And that's why is you become stagnant in life, because that's it. You figure that's no more learning. We need to have kids that want to learn. They want to ask questions. They want to keep throughout life changing, evolving with society, evolving with what's happening. That way, you know what I mean? Like, we, with the resources we have, like I said, we could have like the most intellectual generation if we wanted to, if we put that work in with technology. Like right now, we can have the kids in school, you know what I mean? Like, you could put it on YouTube and they could be watching a lecture somewhere from a university if they wanted to see, like, oh, what's this about? They could look at artifacts that are in Egypt. This is stuff that we didn't have when I was in school, and I wish we did. So why not, you know what I mean, use that? Let's bring that in. Let's have them like getting interested in world events. We know the world, like with, you know, immigration and that, like the world is becoming, it's more integrated. So let's teach them about all this stuff. That way there's no social awkwardness. You know what I mean? Like, technology can do so much for us, and that's my biggest thing. And it's just when you see the financial aspect, and we see with the school closures, if we close the schools, maybe we can get the money for this. But at the same time with that as well, is we need to realize with the decline in the population today, it doesn't mean in 10 years from now it's going to be the same.
Right.
So in that aspect, we need to be careful. So I think too, as a trustee, this is where I will be willing, as a parent, I'm already doing this, but as a trustee, to stand up and, you know, if it's daily, ask the board. We need to ask the province for more money for education. This should be our top priority. You know what I mean? Like I said, we can make the future better today. So.
Well, you certainly don't lack enthusiasm on it.
No.
And I look forward to watching you progress in the election. What would you like the community to know about you in closing, Sarah?
Like you said, I'm very enthusiastic. It's kind of taboo. Everybody says the children are our future, but that's definitely something I truly believe in. And I believe we can make the world better if we focus more on our children, if we focused on their education, if we, you know what I mean? Like I said, like gave them the things to help them grow. And that's what my agenda is. You know what I mean? Because everybody gets into politics for something. Someone's always got that little, you know, there's an agenda. Why would you enter it? There's something that drives you, and that's mine. You know what I mean? It's like when we're parents, we want our children to have better than what we did, so we work for it. But to me, I want to work so every child has better, and that every child can be someone, so every child has a chance. So.
Very good. Well, Sarah, thank you for coming into my studio. It was a real pleasure rekindling our friendship, and I look forward to having another conversation if you're willing to come in.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Join us. Catch the bug.